Hello everyone, welcome to Selenium Training. In this training we will be learning Selenium with C#. Fine. So before actually starting off with the course, I will answer few of the frequently asked questions which people generally ask. Okay, so I have prepared a list of questions before you. So the first question is, what all will be taught in the course? Well, we will be discussing the basics of C#, Selenium WebDriver, nunit, grid and the frameworks. Fine. And then for further details of the course, you can visit this website seleniumtraining.com. Fine. And then the next question is, will I get access to the videos? Yes, you will surely get access to the videos. Okay. Then, do you record current sessions? Yes, I do record current sessions. Okay. Then the next question is C# required if I don't know programming? Well, the answer to this question is yes. You must have the knowledge of C# if you want to learn Selenium. Without any knowledge of C#, you cannot just learn Selenium. Okay, so learning Selenium is equally important to learning C# as well. Fine. Then the next question is, I need help in my project, will you help? Well, we will be helping you out in your project. We have a team of support members who will help you out. Okay. Then what all do you cover? Well, as I discussed with you, we will be covering these topics: C#, Selenium WebDriver, nunit, the testing framework, grid and the projects as well. Fine. Then what would be the duration of the course? Well, it would take around 6 to 7 weeks to cover these topics. Fine. And then if you buy the videos, then it would take around 60 to 70 hours. Okay. Then the last question is there any live project? Yes, the frameworks are there. Okay. Now let's just move forward. Now let us talk about the history of Selenium, that how it evolved and where it is going right now. Fine. So let's just see. Now in Selenium there are 3 components of Selenium. Okay, so one of the component is IDE. Fine. Then we have grid, and then the one of the component is RC. Okay. Now firstly let's just talk about IDE. Now IDE, it works only on Mozilla. Okay, it only supports the Firefox browser, it doesn't support any other browser. Fine. And then it generates no reports. Okay, the reports cannot be generated in IDE. Fine. And then moreover, if suppose you have 1000 test cases in your project, okay, you have suppose 1000 tests in your projects, then you cannot just use IDE to implement those test cases. IDE would not help you out to execute those test cases. Fine. So in order to move these defects and to work on multiple browsers, we switch to RC. Okay, so RC, as I told you, it supports multiple browsers. Okay, and then secondly, it generates reports as well. Okay, it helps to generate the HTML as well as the XLS reports. Fine. But in RC there were certain drawbacks. Okay, there were certain drawbacks with RC because of which it is not used. Fine. So and then the grid comes. So the grid, in the grid, it helps us to execute the test cases parallelly. Okay, so grid helps to run the test cases parallelly. It helps in the parallel execution of the test cases. Fine. So like as I told you that with RC there were certain drawbacks. So in order to avoid these drawbacks, then came another component which is known as WebDriver. Okay, which is also known as Selenium 2.0. Okay, so as I told you, it contains all the features of RC, that is, it supports multiple browsers, it generates the reports as well, and a lot of its own features as well. So in order to learn WebDriver, no need to learn the RC, we will simply learn WebDriver. Fine. And then IDE is still the same. Okay, and then grid has been changed to a grid 2. Okay, which supports WebDriver as well. Okay, so we will be discussing this out. Okay, so this was just a brief introduction to the history of Selenium. Fine. Now let's just move towards our course. Okay, so like I told you that we had discussed the brief introduction and some of the FAQs. Then we discussed the history of Selenium. Fine. And then I told you the importance of C# as well. Like I told you that in order to learn Selenium, you must have the basic knowledge of C#. You cannot just learn Selenium without any prior knowledge of C#. Fine. Say if you look at the documentation of C# as well, if we go to the official website of Selenium, that is seleniumhq.org, over here you go to the download section, and on this page you will be able to see the documentation of the C#. Here you can see that we have the API docs of C# as well. Okay, we click on this documentation. Now over here you see that in order to understand this documentation, you must have the knowledge of C#. And for the C#, in order to understand this documentation, you must be familiar with the basic concepts of OOPs. Okay, these classes, interfaces, objects, these all topics comes under the concept of OOPs. So in order to understand this documentation, you must have the basic knowledge of the object-oriented programming language concepts. Fine. So this was the importance of C#, the OOPs concepts, while learning the Selenium as well. Okay, so now let's just move forward. Okay, so the first thing, in order to implement our course which that is Selenium with C#, firstly we will install Visual Studio on our system, the software of .NET. Okay, so in order to install the Visual Studio, what you need to do is that you need to go to visualstudio.com. Okay, and then on this page we go to Downloads tab, and then under this we go to All Downloads. Fine. And then over here you will see Visual Studio Downloads, various links coming up before you, and then from here you can simply select Visual Studio 2015, the latest version of Visual Studio. Okay, then on this page you simply need to choose the format as ISO. Simply just select the ISO format and then click on download. Okay, so here you see that the software, it starts downloading. Okay, so it is around 7 GB. I'll just stop this since I have already installed on my system. I'll just show you. Okay, so this is the software, Visual Studio software. This is the .exe file of the Visual Studio. Okay, so I'll just double click on this and you click on run. Okay, so it would take some time to install the setup. It would generally take some time. So it is initializing the setup, configuring the feed. Okay, so you can simply just, you need to simply just click on next, and then simply need to install this software. Okay, so I'll just stop this for the time being since I have already installed on my system, and you can simply install it like this. There is not a big issue in installing this. Okay, so when you install Visual Studio, you will see the icon coming like this on your system. Okay, so this is the Visual Studio icon which you will see on your desktop as well. So let's just now create one project with Visual Studio. I'll just show you a sample project. Okay, so when you open the Visual Studio, so this is the first page of the Visual Studio that you will see when you open the Visual Studio. Okay, so this is the first page. Okay, so now let's just create one sample project in Visual Studio. Now in order to create a new project, you can simply select a new project from here, or you can go to File menu, click on New, and then can simply create a new project. Okay, now this new project window comes up, which asks you to create a type of project that you want to create. Okay, so over here you will see a lot of options coming before you. You can simply add a Windows Form application if you want to create a desktop application. Fine. If you want to create an web application, you can select ASP.NET Web application. Then you have the class library project as well. Then you have a lot more options. Okay, among these you can select any one according to your requirement. Okay, and one more thing to notice over here is that just make sure that while selecting the kind of project, on this left menu just make sure that Visual C# is being selected. Under the templates we will be having several templates. Okay, since we are doing Selenium with C#, so just make sure that Visual C# is being selected. Okay, so under this we will create, for the time being we will be creating a console application. Okay, so over here we give the name of the application. Say I give my first application. Okay, and then over here you can give the location of your project as well. Okay, you can browse to your location where you want to keep your project. Okay, and then can give your location and then click on OK. Okay, so here it comes your first application. My first application project, it simply opens up. So this project, it simply creates these 4 folders by default. Okay, so this is the Solution Explorer window, which will give you the details of your project. Whatever you install, whatever you create in your project, the classes, interfaces, test cases, whatever you create, all the details of your project will be shown inside this Solution Explorer window. Fine. Say if you don't see this Solution Explorer window, then you can simply select this. You can simply get this from the View menu. Okay, from the View menu you have this Solution Explorer window. Okay, simply can open this from here as well if you don't get to see it directly. Okay, so this is our first application project that we had just created, and it contains these 4 folders by default. Okay, so these are the 4 folders. Now this program.cs is a class file. The file with the extension .cs is known as the class file in C#. Fine, so this program.cs is a class file, as you can see over here. Now this class file, it contains these using directives. Okay, here you can see that these are the using directives that are created by default, that are being written over here by default. Okay, so these are known as the namespaces that are necessary, that must be there in order to run your project. Okay, so these are the basic DLLs, basic references that must be present in your application in order to execute your code. Okay, so this is the name, these are the namespaces, the default namespaces. Then this is the my first application is the name of your project, my first application. Then the class name is program, and then this is the main function, static void main is a function. Okay, and then over here you can see this curly braces opening from here and it is ending till here. Okay, so this is a class file. Program.cs is a class file. Okay, and then you can add your own class file as well. In order to create a new class file in your project, what you need to do is that you can simply right click on your project, select add, and then select new item. Okay, and then from here you can simply add any one of the items that you want to add in your project. Say you want to add a class, you can add a class file, or an interface, Windows form, user control. You can add any one of them according to your requirement. Okay, say if I want to add a class file, so I just select the class file and give it the name as first class. Okay, and I click on add. So here you see that the first class, it gets added up in your project. Okay, and this class also has these using directives that are created by default, as I told you, which are needed for the execution of the test, which are necessary. Okay, and then this is the name of your project, and then the class name is first class. Okay, so this is how you can simply add any number of class files into your project. Fine, now let's just see. We go to the program.cs class file. Okay, and now let's just try to understand this class file. Okay, now as I told you that this is the name of your application, then there is a name of the class, program class, and this is the function. Like I told you that it is a function in which the control comes for the first time. Okay, so this static void main is a function in which the control would come for the first time. Okay, so now you will be just thinking that what is static, what is void, what is main. For the time being, just have patience and just accept the things as they are as of now. Okay, as time passes, with the coming classes, you will get to clear all your doubts. Okay, so now let's just look into it. Okay, now in this function, let us say I write one statement as console.writeLine. Okay, and inside this I write Selenium with C#. Okay, now what is this console.writeLine? Well, this console.writeLine is a command to print something in C#. Okay, in order to print anything in C#, you have a command console.writeLine, which will help you to print anything in C#. Fine, and just make sure that the console keyword, the first letter of this console, C, is capital. If you write a small letter C, then you will see the error coming up. Okay, so the error says that the name console does not exist in the current context. Okay, so just remember that C# is case sensitive. You have to write a capital C for the console. Okay, and similarly for the WriteLine as well. Fine, so C# is case sensitive. Okay, now let's just run this code. Okay, now in order to run your code, you will see a button over here from the top menu, start button. Okay, just click on it and your project would run. Okay, so now you see that a separate console window, it did come, but it just vanished away immediately. It just did not stop. We were not able to see the output. Okay, so the reason is that we had not written one statement, that is console.readKey. Okay, so this console.readKey is a command which will help you to halt your program for the time until you press any key from your keyboard. Fine, so now if we just run our project, so now you would see that a separate console window comes up which contains your output, Selenium with C#. Okay, which prints your output, Selenium with C#. So this console.readKey, it just halts your program for the time until you press any key. Okay, it just frees your screen and lets you see the output. Fine, so this is console.readKey. Okay, now if suppose you want to print a number of statements in your project, then what you would be doing, you would be writing this console.writeLine statement again and again after every line. Okay, in each and every line you would be writing this console.writeLine. So there is a shortcut for this as well. Fine. So the shortcut for this is, say I write, you have the shortcut as you write CW and then simply hit double tab key. Okay, you write CW and then hit double tab key, and then you will see that the console.writeLine, it comes automatically. You need not to write the whole console and then writeLine keyword. It would come automatically. Okay, so this is the shortcut for the console.writeLine. Okay, and then one more thing to make sure is that in this console.writeLine, whatever you are writing in this console.writeLine, just make sure that you are writing in double quotes. Okay, everything that you write in the console.writeLine, it should be given in the double quotes. Okay, until and unless it is a number. Okay, say if you don't give this in double quotes, then you would see an error coming up. Okay, so you need to put anything that you want to print, anything in C#, you need to put them in double quotes. Okay, until and unless it is a number. Say if you want to print any number, you write any number over here, and when you run your project, you would see the number coming up. There, it did not just give you an error, it runs correctly. Okay, but when you are writing any letters, okay, then you have to give them in double quotes only. Okay, otherwise it would give you an error. Okay, so now this was it. Now the next topic is that there is a difference between console.writeLine and console.write. Okay, there is a difference between console.writeLine and console.write. Say suppose I write over here console.writeLine, first line, fine, and then I have console.writeLine, second line. Okay, and then I have another statement, console.writeLine, third line. Okay, now when I run my project, okay, so now you see that every output is printed on a different line, first line, second line and third line. Fine, so you see that each and every output is printed on a different line, on a new line. It is not printed on the same line. Fine. Now say suppose I write over here console.writeLine, first line, and over here I write console.write. Okay, and now I run my code again. So now you see that the cursor is in the second line, the cursor did not move to the third line, and it just printed the third line as well on the second line. Okay, so what this console.writeLine does, it simply just prints something and moves the cursor to the new line. Okay, it prints something and then moves the cursor to the second line. And then what this write statement do for you? Okay, so this write statement means that don't move the cursor to the new line. Don't move the cursor to the new line after printing anything. Okay, so when over here you have written console.write second line, in the output you can see that it prints second line and then it did not move the cursor to the next line. It simply kept the cursor on the same line and then simply printed the next output, that is third line. Okay, and then after printing third line, the cursor is there on the next line. On the new line the cursor is there. It is not on the same line, the second line. Okay, so this is the basic difference between WriteLine and write. Fine.